That's Nick.
And that's Joseph. And today we're here to talk about Cry Macho, the latest film directed by Clint Eastwood, who's 91 years of age, and Warner Brothers is releasing September 17th, 2021. Technically, you could say it's Clint Eastwood's 40th film as a director, but I'm not counting Tightrope, which he's uncredited on, so 39th.
Clint Eastwood's directed 39, 40 films?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, he started out, considering where he started out as a director with 1971's playing Misty For Me, which I think may be my favorite that he's done as a director.
He's very consistent.
He's... yeah.
In his production of movies. Okay. This was a miss for me.
So let's start with it's based on a novel by N. Richard Nash, who wrote the Rain People, the Rain Man. I think was an early Coppola film. Anyhow, notable. The book was in 1975, but people have been trying to make this film for the past 30 years.
Oh no, I don't know why. Go ahead.
Well, based on what this product is, I can understand that sentiment. I could see something more compelling have been made. However, interestingly, in 1988, Clint Eastwood himself had expressed interest in making this, but had gone on to other projects, which is probably when he would have been about the right age to do this. Then in about 1991, Roy Scheider was attached, which I could have seen that happening. And then again in 2011 or so, Arnold Schwarzenegger in a Brad Furman production, before Clint resumed the reins on this.
Maybe I'm biased, but I find it odd, like these white characters wanting to go take Mexicans from, because there are a number of movies like this. It just seems like a weird fascination with ethnic people and I don't know. I'm not into it. This movie was a miss. What's the one with Liam Neeson that we reviewed?
The Marksman.
The Marksman. This is more ridiculous than that.
This is ridiculous, but it's because all the elements are off. But I could see someone of a certain age, just kind of past the point of ripeness, perhaps being successful in this role.
I don't know. Let me describe the story.
Okay.
So Clint Eastwood plays a man named Milo, who used to be a rodeo star back in the day, but he broke his back and couldn't ride anymore. So Dwight Yoakam's in the film. Dwight Yoakam's a country singer.
You didn't know that?
It just occurred to me. Because I was thinking he was not good in this movie, but maybe that's because he's a singer, not...
No, because he's excellent in Sling Blade.
He's a Sling Blade?
Yes!
Oh.
He's the antagonistic white man that is trying to harm the child.
What's the line from Sling Blade?
Which one?
There's one...
The French fried taters?
No.
Oh, the one I say all the time?
Yeah.
What'd you kill Jesse for? What'd you kill Jesse for?
That's the one.
Oh, yeah. That's a classic.
Okay. So, back when Mike broke his back and couldn't ride, Dwight Yoakam's character gave him...
A job as a horse trainer.
A job as a horse. Okay. So now, all these years later...
And it's set... This film is set in 1979.
1970? Oh, that's right. So, well, oh God, that means that Clint was rodeo back in 1930s? What?
I don't think he's supposed to be.
Were there rodeos in 1930?
I don't think his character's supposed to be 90. He just is.
Oh my God. We'll get into it. Okay. So we start the film with Dwight basically telling...
He's firing him.
He's firing him, and then he's like, you owe me a favor.
So a year passes.
A year passes. Clint goes back to Dwight, and Dwight's like, you owe me a favor. I have a son down in Mexico City who's only 13. Which is so you got some lady pregnant when you were 60, because Dwight Yoakam looks old too.
He does.
And the lady he got pregnant is beautiful and much younger. So that's already crazy. But he says, I need you to go down to Mexico. I need you to take your old ass from New Mexico and drive down to Mexico City to pick up my 13-year-old son and bring him back.
Yeah, his mother is placed him in a den of iniquity, blah, blah, blah. And he has some legal issues where he's not allowed to go to that country anymore.
So Clint hops his old ass in his pickup truck and drives across the border, gets to the house, and this lady is living a very lavish life. It would appear she's involved in some nefarious or organized crime sort of thing. And she...
Presented as a drunken nymphomaniac, basically.
She kind of reminds me of that lady from Bad Boys 3.
Which one?
The Mexican lady, like the drug cartel
Oh my
lady.
God. That's not a good thing.
No? Okay. So he gets down there and she explains, like, my son is trash. He's out in these streets doing cockfights and he's like a terrible human being. I don't give a fuck what you do with him.
Should take him.
Take him. So he finds him at a cockfight and we meet this little boy. And when I tell you, he is the most square, like... Like he was born and raised in Echo Park and went to like performing arts school. Like he just doesn't fit the description we get of him at all.
He is not living out in the streets.
He's not living La Vida Loca.
No.
And then he has his pet cock. But it's like if he's this badass like doing cockfights.
Named Macho. That's the name of the...
The name of the cock is Macho, but the boy's name is Rafa. Okay, if Rafa's this badass doing cockfights, he treats his little rooster like it's like...
Precious.
I mean, he's nicer to that rooster than I am to our cat. So that doesn't fit in line with this badass kid. And he's also very polite and very religious.
Yeah.
Well-spoken. I don't get it. But anyway, Clint finds him. Tells him what's up. Like, your dad's in New Mexico. He wants to see you. Texas. Oh, they're in Texas?
It was filmed in New Mexico. But...
Oh, my bad. So, Rafa... agrees, but then at the last minute, like, leaves. Like, he runs away. But that's because he sees some people who want to get him. So, Clint goes back to the mom, and she puts the moves on him.
Yeah.
And he rebuffs her.
Yeah.
So now she's mad. And she's like, you can't take my son, because you wouldn't give me some dick. Like, okay. Some old 91-year-old, wrinkly, whatever. We'll get to it. So... Clint's like, whatever. So he leaves. And as he's driving back to the border, he realizes that Rafa is hiding in the back of the truck. And they have a little tiff, but he agrees to take him. So the bulk of the film is their little adventure trying to get back to the border. The main part of it is they go to some little town and meet this lady who worked at like a restaurant / like motel or whatever. And now this lady's in love with Clint. And Rafa likes being there because she has kids and it feels like a family. So he wants to stay. The bad guys show up.
The mother's henchman, yeah.
The mother's henchmen. But they made friends with like the town sheriff, so he kind of scares them away.
Deputy.
The deputy. He says the sheriff, I think, actually.
But it's clarified by the restaurant owner that he's just a deputy.
Okay.
Not that matters. Who cares?
So they get away, and it ends with Clint getting Rafa back to the border where he meets Dwight.
And then he goes back. You went to the bathroom at this point. He goes back to the woman, and they dance slowly in her establishment.
Oh my God, that's even more stupid. Okay, well, yeah.
I could see this have been, like, had it been made in the 70s or 80s, kind of being a sentimental statement of a film. Here, it just seems very hackneyed for many reasons.
This shit was so corny and cringy, and I don't even know where to begin, except that I kept thinking Clint Eastwood needs to sit down. He needs to take a seat. That man looks like all the things. That preacher man from Poltergeist 2.
I said the old hormone monster from Big Mouth.
From Big Mouth. He looks like he is about to fall apart. And him delivering these lines, it looks like every shot with Clint Eastwood in it was a one-take situation. Because there are at least 3 scenes where it's like he's fumbling his lines.
Yeah.
And then the actor opposite him, which is usually Rafa, seems like he has to just get through it. And then that poor kid, I mean, his acting felt a little crunchy too. I think part of it's the dialogue, and also this kid doesn't seem like he grew up in Mexico out in these streets. He really does sound like he grew up in Silver Lake or something. Like,
yes, I think for a long time now, though, it's been clear that Clint Eastwood is not for many takes. Like, for instance, they didn't even have a finalized script for Changeling with Angelina Jolie. The shooting script is fine. Yes, it very much seems like one and done is the Clint Eastwood, not unlike Woody Allen way.
I don't know Dwight Yoakam in movies, but his acting in this film was kind of... He's like... What's that person you always reference from Pussycat Kill Satan or...
Tira Satana?
I felt like he was doing that, like just shouting everything.
Oh yeah, when Clint calls to give him an update, he's like, "You found him, great!"
But even when we first meet Dwight, he's shouting everything.
Yeah. And then of course we learn the stupidest part is the finessing of why he wants his son back, and it's basically as collateral because he owns businesses in Mexico that under his ex-wife's name, and he wants to cash in on those dividends, if you will, by having his son as collateral.
Which doesn't make sense.
Because she doesn't even really want him.
Because she doesn't even want him. Like, oh my God. Okay. When Clint first goes to the cockfight to meet the boy, and then they all break up because I think cops show up or whatever. There's a scene where, like, the rooster, Macho, is, like, running by itself. And for some reason, Clint's character thinks he needs to chase the rooster. So you see Clint Eastwood chasing cock. But it's like little old man. Oh, my God. Just, wow. Okay. Then the mom, Rafa's mom, all the dramatics about her son just did not make sense. It just really took what was already a cringy, stupid story and made it like a cheesy soap opera.
Yes. I think all of the mechanics of this project, I think, are just off, skewed. I don't think he's properly able to direct actors that aren't speaking English even. I think the nadir of his career was the 1517 to Paris, about that terrorist attack on the train where he cast the real people that lived through it in a reenactment, and of course those people can't act. But since I didn't mind The Mule, which I think was his last film before this, or Sully, and he's just
Well, we're talking about this movie. So the scene where...
Well, just comparatively to what Clint can accomplish as a 90-year-old. Again, he also has kept saying for years that he's going to retire from being in front of the screen. I think in Gran Torino, which Nick Schenk, who wrote that film, adapted this as well. I guess I just don't understand why he wants to put himself in this mix when it's clearly written for somebody that is at least 40 years younger.
The scene where Clint's character discovers Rafa in the back of the truck, and they get out, and they start arguing, and Clint's like, I'm not bringing you. Like, I don't care what you do, but I'm not taking you back to the U.S. And then Rafa starts saying, well, I'm going to call the cops and tell them that you touched me, that you raped me. Like, that a gringo raped me. And then Clint's telling him, like, oh, yeah, but they're going to have to stick fingers up your ass to check. Like, you want them to do that? And then the boys start saying, well, I'm going to call the cops and tell them that you hit me with a car and I'm going to limp. And that shit was so stupid.
I actually would be curious to read this book because I don't know. Like, all of those kind of exchanges made this distinctly feel like it was not the late 70s, early 80s. My last note is the characters speaking Spanish. We only get, of all the characters speaking Spanish, we only get subtitles for like 20% of it. But there's a lot of Spanish being spoken. Yes. But it's forcing Rafa to be kind of a go-between
in some scenes, many scenes. But much of that dialogue, if you don't speak Spanish, you wouldn't know what they're saying. Right. I don't like that.
I don't either. Again, I think that if he passed on this in 1988, somebody else should have directed this movie.
I just don't. The stories like this right now, like, I just don't understand why this needs to be told. What is the function of this? Like, what's the message of the story? Oh, yes, you said it was about toxic masculinity.
Well, yeah, because it's all about the boy's constant refrain is how this cock named Macho is strong, and Clint or Mike Milo, somebody that used to be strong but now he's weak. And they have so many interactions where he's talking about how that doesn't mean anything.
That didn't even register to me.
Oh, see, I think this film is this narrative is about toxic masculinity, the machismo of the culture that this boy is coming from, for instance, and the culture that they're moving towards, and the clash between those two. I think that it's trying to make those statements. Again, it's just all lost in the distraction of Clint Eastwood, who, does have quite a following, which I guess is why he keeps getting budgets to make these films, but...
This would make a good double feature with The Marksman.
God.
What would you give it?
1 out of 5.
I would give it 1 out of 5 as well.
I found it very kind of difficult to sit through and...
Yeah.
A bit embarrassing, even though it already has some kind of positive buzz. I don't know, I guess not from me.
Nope. Anything else?
No.
Bye.